Hello everyone, what's up? Prince 15 here with another movie review. Today we're taking a look at Spider-Man Across the Spider-Verse, the very eagerly anticipated follow-up to Spider-Man Into the Spider-Verse. And it was okay. No, I'm joking. It was really, really good. Early reactions, I was kind of worried. Everyone was like, "Oh, this is one of the best animated films ever." I'm like, "Oh boy, I hope they're not overblowing it and hyping it up too much." And I think they were a teensy bit, but no, it's still a really, really, really good movie. Or at least half of a really, really good movie, because of course, obvious spoilers ahead in this movie review, but it just ends. There is no actual ending to this movie. It's just like, all right, we're done now. See you in March next year for the second half of this, Beyond the Spider-Verse. Um, it's interesting because this is almost a movie that's hard to actually critique as a regular movie because it's not a regular movie. It doesn't have a beginning, a middle, and an end. It has a beginning and it has a middle, but it doesn't end. It stops because the next act is, the final act is in the next movie. So everyone's character arcs are left unsolved. There's so many things hanging in. This is really the cliffhanger of cliffhangers that they left us here with. And it's another reason why I was like, it's really going to be kind of hard to critique this movie because we can't really critique some parts of it until the next one comes out. Because if, say, for some bonkers reason, and I don't believe this is going to happen at all, but say for some bonkers reason the next one comes out and it's bad, this movie's going to look a whole lot worse in comparison. It's like, that's what they were building up to, then what was the point of all this? But I don't think they're going to do that. I don't think they're going to do that. There's so much good that they set up here with this that and even with Into the Spider-Verse, it's so clear that these people know what they're doing. So I think we'll be fine. So yeah, but like I said, I like the movie. I thought it was good. I don't think this is one of the best animated films of all time, like some people are saying. I mean, it's up there, I guess. I mean, yeah, it's really, really good. I think maybe from a purely artistic standpoint, I guess maybe, but it's like I don't know, because I feel like, because the thing with this is, even though it's really, really good and I really, really enjoyed it and I'm very eagerly waiting for the next part now next year, it it doesn't feel as original as Into the Spider-Verse, because Into the Spider-Verse was so revolutionary. It was so, no one has ever done something like this before. This is new. This is fresh. We are taking a very new spin on this type of story because it's a story that we've seen before. It's like, if it's happened in the comics. Ultimate Spider-Man, the TV show, did this story arc with, I think it was maybe even called Into the Spider-Verse or something like that. I can't remember, because I was like, the whole fourth season was like a spin on the Into the Spider-Verse saga, because they called it Web Warriors, and somehow like a bunch of different spider people from a bunch of different dimensions all got stuck in the main dimension from Ultimate Spider-Man, and they all went to like Shield School or something. That was not a very good show at all after the first season. But anyway, so it's like, it's a story that had been done before, but the animation was so out there and different, and the way the story was told with that patented Lord and Miller charm and humor that they had perfected on like Lego Movie and Cloudy with a Chance of Meatballs before that. And it's like, these two were like, honestly, really kind of the resurrectors of Sony Animation Studios, because they'd done a couple movies, like Sony did Cloudy with a Chance of Meatballs, but then Lord Miller jumped over to Warner Brothers for a little bit, and they did the Lego Movie, and they helped produce Lego Batman and Ninjago and Lego Movie 2. And so they kind of left Sony to flounder a little bit and just kind of flop around like a dead fish. And from that, we got Cloudy with a Chance of Meatballs 2, which wasn't good. And we got the Emoji Movie, which is like notoriously one of the worst animated films of all time. And then they turned it, and then they came back and they turned it around with Into the Spider-Verse. And then after that, they made the Mitchells versus the Machines, which is also amazing. And it's like, and they did, and I mean, pandemic complications and stuff, but they didn't really feel confident about putting it out in the theater, so they put it on Netflix, and it's like, it's amazing. I love that movie so much. And now we've got Across the Spider-Verse, and soon next year, Beyond the Spider-Verse, and it's like, wow, these people are really doing a lot for Sony Animation Studio. And it's like, Sony should just let them make whatever the heck they want in the future. So that's really, really something interesting to think about. But I mean, honestly, I don't really have too much to say about this movie because, like I said, it's kind of hard to critique at this point because there's so much left dangling. It's like what is the, because it doesn't, because like I said, it doesn't have a typical plot structure, and it doesn't really end. It just stops. So it's like, well, it's like, yeah, the ending's cool. It's like, oh, alternate miles, and we're getting a spider gang together to go rescue him, and everything, and stuff like that. And that's all really cool, but it's not an ending. So I don't really. It's like, it's when the movie stops, not when the movie ends, because we got to wait another 9 months or whatever for the next half of the movie. So I really feel kind of odd even critiquing it. Except for like, some weird personal things. Like, for instance, I thought that the look of Gwen Stacy's dimension was very distracting, and that's why I like hesitate to call this. And it's like one of the greatest animated movies ever, because it just, I know, and the totally subjective thing, I understand that, but totally subjective thing, I didn't like the look of Gwen Stacy's dimension with, like, because like the backgrounds at times weren't even finished. They were just like paint splotches. Like, depending on the shot, like the wall in the Stacy's apartment in New York wasn't even done. It was just, like a couple random paint splotches, and that was it. And so it confused me a little bit about where we were at times. And I don't know, maybe depending on the shot and the moment in a certain scenes, that was actually the intention. Like, the background is fading away because we're just focusing on Gwen and her dad and their turmoil that they're going through. So maybe that was the point. And if that's the case, then okay, yeah, I guess I get that. I don't think it necessarily worked completely, but I understand what you were going for, because like I said, the background just kind of fading into nothing. That's like, what's going on here? It distracted me from the plot. But maybe that's just also me being an animation nerd, and 99% of other people didn't have that problem. So I didn't like the look of Gwen Stacy's home dimension. But like everything else, I thought looked gorgeous. Moonbottom, it's like Manhattan combined with Mubon, or no, not Mubon. Mumbai. That's it. I was trying to combine it with with Mimban from Star Wars. That's where I was getting mixed up. So yeah, that world was really cool. I liked all the Asian aesthetics and everything. It was beautiful. It looked really cool. I don't know, Nuevo York, it's like New York 2099 or whatever. It's like, seen it, future New York. It's not really anything that special. Well, we didn't spend too much time there, outside in the environment. We spent more time in the the Spider Hotel or whatever it was. So, I guess if I have one complaint about the movie in general, that's not even the movie's fault, is that the trailers straight up spoil this entire movie. I mean, you get a basic rundown of this entire movie's plot, essentially, if you watch the trailer. And it's like, it's just don't watch it. So, I mean, sometimes because there's the easy answer for, just don't watch the trailers, ding dong. And it's like, I get that. And if you're on the internet, then that can, it's just self-control of not doing that. But like, they played this trailer in front of Guardians 3, which I've seen now twice, and cried both times, of course. But it's like they showed the trailer beforehand. I mean, you're a captive audience there, because you don't know is this the last trailer? Oh, I don't want to. I'm just like, what, are you going to close your eyes and plug your ears and go, la, 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 la. I'm not listening. Are you going to do that? So that's kind of annoying. So it's like, that's why I don't necessarily always subscribe to the, well, that's why you shouldn't watch trailers. I'm like, well, when you go to the movie, you're kind of subjected to them. So maybe the theater houses should, well, but do the theater houses even, I don't know how that works. Do the theater houses choose which trailers they show? I feel like it's some contractual things, like, okay, you're showing this trailer now in this movie. So I don't know. So yeah, but if you watch that second trailer for the movie, I mean, you get basically the entire gist of the movie, minus like the big cliffhanger ending with the Miles Prowler twist. Other than that, I mean, you really get kind of the whole thing. It's like, okay, yeah, he's meeting up with the spider people, he's exploring other places, he's he's crossing swords with Spider-Man 2099, who thinks he's doing the right thing, but he's probably not going about it the best way. I mean, basically the only thing you miss from that, like I said, is the twist and like all the cameos and Easter eggs from all the other characters. Like, it was really cool to see Yuri Lowenthal Spider-Man there from Spider-Man PS4 and Miles Morales. And of course Donald Glover as the Aaron Davis from the MCU. And it's like, oh, so is this why we haven't seen him? Is because he got his Prowler costume and like during the blip or something, and then he got zapped into another dimension? Is that what happened? And that's why we haven't seen him in a while, and that'd be interesting. And then just like all the other little things popping up in the background. Spectacular Spider-Man being there and actually getting, I think, multiple voice lines, because of course he gets the big one where he's like, I'm sorry, Miles, that's just the way it is, that's what being Spider-Man is, or whatever, where he's agreeing with 2099. But then I think they also showcased him, I think he was the first one you saw weeping over the dead police captain. I'm pretty sure that was Spectacular. That sounded like Josh Keaton to me. So interesting that it's like, did they just if that is Spectacular, did they unilaterally decide in the writer's room for this movie that's like, oh yeah, let's have make it to where Spectacular ended up eventually losing his Captain Stacy, or did they speak with the writing team for that show and discuss, hey, is this, it's like, what were your plans for season 3? Is this something that would have made sense? Is this something you did or were planning to do before the show got axed? So I'm very curious about that, because Spectacular Spider-Man is one of those projects where a lot of people want to see it back. I've seen it. I'm actually going through another watch through right now on Disney Plus because it's there, and it's a good show. I have my issues with it because I and it's one of those things like, oh, is this really a critique I can give Spectacular Spider-Man because it was canceled? But I feel like Peter doesn't develop quite enough as a person. I feel like he keeps reverting to be a little bit of a jerk throughout a lot of it, and he keeps making the wrong decisions. But that's part of the point of the show, is that he is, despite making mistakes, continually growing, and we just never got to that eventual he's really got it figured out now point. He's still a very flawed character when the show is canceled and ends. So you feel like Peter just kind of spins. So because of that, it kind of feels like Peter just spins the entire show spinning his wheels, and he never quite figures it out. But again, the show was canceled, so of course he never quite got to that point, because so that's not really the fault of the show at all. They were just acting as if they were going to go for years and years, and nope, you got your 26 episodes or whatever, because you got your 2 13-episode seasons and you're done, because Disney bought Marvel, and they took the TV rights to Spider-Man. So Sony, it's so complicated, because Sony has the rights to Spectacular Spider-Man, but they lost the rights to produce more Spider-Man television. But meanwhile, because Sony owns the rights to Spectacular Spider-Man, that means Disney couldn't continue Spectacular Spider-Man, and thus Ultimate Spider-Man was born, the TV show, not the comic. So, and then, like I said, that show was good for like a season, and then after that, it just went downhill. But Yeah, so I am curious because, like I said, Spectacular is one of those projects that people want to come back and want to be finished, and like putting this thing in Spider Verse, if that was Spectacular, then was that something that they discussed with the creative team on Spectacular, or is that just a decision they made? And if by some miracle, because I could see it being possible with streaming and all that stuff, and Disney just being this giant, money hungry company that just gobbles up everything in sight, I could see a deal being brokered where they are able to make another season of the show on Disney Plus. I could nowadays I could see that happening. Back in the day, couldn't see it happening, but now who knows? I could. It's like they've revived. There's a bunch of animated shows that have been revived recently because people need content for streaming services. Speaking of Lord and Miller, Clone High, they're bringing that back. Of course, Clone Wars season 7, that's a big deal. Even other things that didn't exist before but are now exist. It's like the Harley Quinn show on Max. It is now. That was originally on DC Universe when that was an app on its own before it got just thrown into HBO Max, and then now HBO Max is just Max and not confusing at all. So I could kind of maybe see the show coming back at this point. People have made like mock-up fake posters with the Disney Plus logo and tricked a couple people on the internet a time or two already. So if that were to happen, I am curious how into this, the Spider-Verse saga would play into that. Same goes for, of course, the video game version with the Yuri Spider-Man, because he shows up in this, and there's this big chase with Miles Morales and everything. So I'm curious if, because of what they're wanting to focus on in this movie, if they just gave him the cameo, and of course the second game isn't out, but the second game is most likely about to be out. There's been leaks and rumors saying that it's going to be September of this year. Again, they haven't officially announced a date yet. They're just saying fall 2023. Since it's still vague, I could see that getting pushed into next year, but I also want to believe the September release date because that's the same month that 2018 launched in the PS4 game launched in 2018. So I could see September being realistic. Who knows? So depending on how the story of Spider-Man PS5 goes, then how does that affect the character in Across the Spider-Verse? Because he's there. We see him, and it's like he loses his video game art style, but he's got the big white spider. So is it just another Spider-Man that's using the big white spider, or is it the Insomniac Spider-Man? So it's like, so him aiding in on the choice in the chase for Miles. How does that affect that character? Is there going to be because I'm assuming in the next movie there's going to be a point where all of the other spider people turn on Miguel, and he has a realization of, oh yes, you are right, what I am doing is wrong, because he's not the villain. He is an antagonist of sorts, but he's still Spider-Man. There's not going to be a moment where they have to kill him or anything, I don't think. I think he's just a very flawed character, and they're going to eventually get through to him. Spot is of course the villain, the overall villain here. At least that's what I'm assuming. Who knows? It's like this is one of those things. Like, well, the third movie could totally turn things on its head. It's like, like maybe Spot's the good guy and Miguel is actually the bad guy, and like they have to stop him. And maybe it's him that they actually have to stop to save the multiverse in some twist or something like that. I don't know. So, but I'm assuming that in the next movie there's going to be a moment where like a lot of the spider people realize that what they're doing is wrong, and I could see PS4 Spidey, Insomniac Spidey, saying, I have a Miles back on my world. We coexist at the same time. I did not have to die for him to become Spider-Man. So even though his story is a little different than some of the other versions of him out there, I don't think that this Miles is as dangerous as you say he is. And then like slowly there's a moment where 2099 is standing there and like all the spider people are behind him, and then they walk around him to then form up with Miles and Gwen and Peter B and Spider-Ham and all the rest of the Spider Gang. And then it's just 2099 standing there, and now the entire Spider-Verse is standing behind Miles. Just as like a comic book page, that sounds really awesome. Just imagine how that could be framed, in the movie. So So I imagine, so it's like, and what about Spectacular? They're going to do a similar thing with Spectacular Spider-Man. Is this going to, are they going to do that? And then it's like, oh, by the way, there's like an after credit scene is like, all right, new season of Spectacular Spider-Man coming to Disney Plus. And you hear the no 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 no, like they play his theme song or something. That'd be bonkers. But of course they have a Spider-Man show coming to Disney Plus. It's Spider-Man Year One. So, but maybe that show got canceled behind the scenes. So that's weird. That because there's all those rumors about that. So or at least it got cut off at the knees. Like they're going to do the first 2 seasons, but then they're not letting them do anymore because it got too expensive or something like that. I don't know. There's been a lot of weird rumors about that, and the show's been percolating for a while. We've still seen almost next to nothing. They had that panel for it, I think, last summer where they talked about some stuff, and then all these other rumors started swirling. So who knows where it stands anymore? But yeah. So yeah, I mean, like I said, I've kind of talked about other things revolving around the movie and less about the movie itself because, like I said, I enjoyed it. I thought it was good. It leaves me tantalized for the next installment. And I feel like I can't. It's like what maybe a complaint I have is that it wasn't as funny as the first one, but they had to focus on setting up so much and they had to really nail, and that's something props I'll give this movie is that they really nailed the emotion, the conflict with the parents and all of that. Super good. I went and saw it with my dad, and he kind of laughed as we were leaving and said, "It's a good thing that your mom was not interested in seeing this because if she had seen the scene with Miles and his mom under the water tower, she would have been crying buckets." So and I know she probably would have. And even just like some of the editing techniques they used, like the fake out where we think Gwen is outside Miles's bedroom the entire time, and she is, but it's in the other dimension. It's in his proper dimension while he's in the wrong dimension. That that was so good. I clued in pretty quickly that he was in the wrong dimension, but the fact that Gwen was in the right dimension while he was in the wrong dimension, that I hadn't clued into. So when she flips in there and it's empty, and they both realize, I mean, I put my hands on my head and I was like, oh my gosh, that was awesome that they did that. And I actually haven't had a movie theater moment like that since the first Spider-Verse movie when they did the Doc Ock reveal, because I did not see that coming because they did her so well in the trailers and even earlier in the movie where you just see Dr. Olivia and Miles covers up the Octavius in the video in the classroom. So when Peter B goes like, what'd you say your name was again? It's like Dr. Olivia Octavius. I audibly gasped in the theater, and she drops the lab coat and the tentacles come out. It's like, and let me guess, your friends call you Doc Ock. It's like, my friends call me Liv. My enemies call me Doc Ock. She lowers the goggles like, that was just so freaking cool. What a great reveal. I'm still geeking out about it, and it's been 5 years. So they got me again with the fake out with the bedroom and everything's like, oh, that was so cool. I love that so much. So I mean, it's just I don't really have too much to say about this movie other than what I've already said because it was just a really solid setup for in a really well told first half of a story. And the biggest quote unquote complaint, I guess, is just that I didn't like the way that Gwen's world looked. And that's basically it. Because I can't even really knock it for it not feeling like it has a good ending because it's not a good ending because it's not an ending. It's not like Infinity War and Endgame where they knew going in this was going to be a 2-part thing. So Infinity War has a beginning, a middle, and an end. And Endgame has a beginning, a middle, and an end. Where they didn't realize it was going to be a 2-part movie going in. The ambitions grew too big and they decided to chop it in half. So they just literally chose a good point in the story and chopped it there. And that's what we got as this movie. So you can't really blame them for doing that and fault the movie for just stopping. It's like, well, I mean, it's either that or you have a 4-hour movie and no one wants to go see a 4-hour movie. You're really pushing it with 3 hours with like Endgame and stuff. So yeah, but yeah, no, Across the Spider-Verse, really, really, really good. Yeah, it was just really good. That last scene though, it's like, you know, the music building is so funny. The music built up, and then it hits, and, you know, the to be continued flashes up there and everything, and I knew they were gonna do that, and not that not that I spoiled myself, but I knew that we were gonna end on some sort of cliffhanger going in because I knew there was another movie coming. Um, but my dad did not know that, so it goes, you know, so, you know, it says to be continued across the Spider-Verse, credits roll. My dad turned to me and goes, "They did not just cliffhanger us." I went, "Yeah, they no, but don't worry, the next movie is coming out in March, so we don't have to wait that long." But then there was another guy in the theater behind me that then it was like behind me and to my right a couple seats. Then went, "So do I only have to pay half price for this then?" That was kind of funny. But he talked like all through the previews and stuff at full volumes. I was kind of worried he was going to talk through the entire movie, but he shut up and got silent. It's like he only had like one outburst at some point in the movie. It was like, I think it was when those spider cars showed up in at the spider headquarters. It's like he was like, "Oh, it's the car!" And like that was it, and that was it. And it's like, you know, genuine surprise moment. I get it, but so that was nice. So yeah, no, I had a really fun time with this movie. It's really good, and I'm ready for the next one. So yeah, not as in depth with my thoughts on this one as I was with Guardians 3. But you know, I just don't, you know, it's just a really, really solid movie. So yeah, that'll pretty much be it for this review. So thank you for watching. Remember to like, comment, subscribe. Remember to follow me on Twitter and Instagram. Those links are, of course, in the description below. And I'll see you guys next week for the review of Transformers Rise of the Beasts. And so, yeah, I'll see you guys then. Looking forward to discussing that one. That one's probably going to be a longer video if I have to just guess as of right now. But we'll see. So thank you all for watching, and goodbye.